Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck.
Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Samantha Cummings, here with my co-host Matilda Swift, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our Mastery Through Missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way, and this week's topic is finding other professionals. But before we get into that, let's do our wins and whinges of the week. Matilda, start us off.
I am going full win this week. I don't know if we talked about this before, but you and I have talked about it before, and it's often, I'm thinking about it a lot. And you know, when you think about something and then you keep hearing it echoed back from other sources. This is one of those things, so it feels a bit epiphany-ish. I really like writing newsletters. I think they are easy and fun to write. I've done it a lot professionally, so I'm trying to lean into things I'm good at and things I find easy. So this year I've upped my newsletter to, just recently, to once weekly rather than once monthly. And I've also realised that the thing that when I mention that I find it kind of quick and easy and fun, and people are always like, oh gosh, really? I find it terrible, is writing short stories. So I can't remember what book I was reading. It was maybe Become a Fearless Writer. That in there it was saying, like, really pay attention to what other people say. Wow, yeah, you're unusually good at that, or I can't believe you find that easy. And so that has, and again, crystallized this week. And it was just a podcast and I mentioned it. It's like, it's coming from everywhere. Do the things that you're good at. Don't push against the tide. I find short stories really fun and easy. In fact, the shorter the book, the better. I prefer writing short stories and novellas not prefer, but I find it easier than writing novels. So long story short, I'm going to write more short stories and just try some different things with them. I also find them a really good palette cleanser. So this week I have written a couple of short stories that are not in one of my existing series. They belong together, and I've started drafting out a couple of stories in the same mini series. And I've got some ideas what to do with them, but I'm not quite ready to talk about those yet. But I'm very excited to have kind of a shiny new thing that isn't hugely time consuming and that I feel really good about. So that is my big win of the week, and I feel just full of fizzy excitement about it, which is really nice. How about you?
I wish that I could write short stories. My whinge of the week is that I can't write short stories. I've had a great week, actually. I heard back from, I know I keep talking about this, but I sent my book Curse of the Wild out to some reviewers and packaged them all up and stuff. And this week, a couple of the reviewers have posted videos of them opening the package and sharing it with their subscribers, their followers. And I've had just really nice feedback about it, about the package and the book and how pretty the cover is and the little things that I put inside. And one of the girls who got one of the books messaged me today saying that she was reading it and she was obsessed. So I was on cloud nine all day, oh my God, does she mean to send that to me? Or maybe she'd just send that to be nice. And then I thought, I don't even care. I'll take it. Obsessed? Go for it. I too am obsessed. So yeah, that was I
have seen those videos of people unboxing your packages. They look amazing. So much fun. And it's really interesting to see people who are opening them. You clearly pick them really well because they're people who are both kind of excited and surprised to get them, but also giving a lot of good attention to the package as they open them. Yes, so exciting. I want some book mail now. I want to become a booktoker.
I know, I'm actually quite jealous. I've got all this stuff here. I can make you one and send it just for fun, just so you can open it. I love watching people unbox books and stuff. So I'm so much on that side of Instagram anyway. So it's nice to kind of be involved as a producer of that rather than just a purveyor of that. So yeah, that was really fun.
Well, I asked a question, a behind the scenes question about this.
Oh yes,
people in the videos have been absolutely obsessed about the paper chase cards. be like, oh my God, a paper chase card. I can't believe it. It's the best thing ever. Did you know this is like a
I know.
Bookstagrammer secret? Everyone has a paper chase card. I mean, I have a paper chase
No.
card.
Like, this is going to be like total, like, shows like how middle class I am. But like, paper chase is just my go-to. Like,
Yeah.
everything. If I want to get stationery, I'm in paper chase, and I'm like, to be fair, the paper chase near me closed, so I wasn't specifically looking for paper chase things to send, but I found paper chase in my local Tesco's, and I was like, oh, Tesco's stocking paper chase. Yes, please.
Well, no,
but
know,
no,
all
I
the paper
didn't
chase
know.
is closed, right?
Yes,
The
I know.
chain's
Yeah.
gone.
But
Okay.
there was like a little concession stand in a Next near me, which is like, that's what the one I used to go to. So I don't, like, they're now in Tesco's, which is like the next building over. But I didn't know that Tesco's stocked it, so it was a nice surprise. I didn't know. Such a fun, guys, if you get packages from me, it's always going to be paper chase until they cease
the
to
high
exist.
quality cards.
Yeah, pure high quality. Like, I'll show this on the video, even though like no one listening to this will be able to see. But I got this cute little pack of, like, it's in a little box, and there are 4 different types of cards, and they're just really cute. Like, yeah, I was very happy to find them, and I'm glad that they were appreciated. My other winner this week, sorry to keep harping on, is that I finally finished editing my book that's coming out in September. Oh my God, it took so long. So my whinge is really like how long it took me. But I did learn a lot about my own processes along the way, so I'm kind of okay with it. So the edit is done. I completely rewrote the ending. Why not? Right at the last minute. And I have sent it off to somebody else to read through and throw edits back at me to get it all whipped into shape for publish. So, oh my God, today was a good day, and I have drank. I did have a drink to celebrate. That's what I'm going to say. Now I'm on tea, but I have drank beer today.
Excellent. And we're going to come back to talk about your editor in a minute. But actually, I did want to ask you, mentioned that you'd learned a lot about your processes. What is something that you learned and how, just while we've got you on the topic?
In the past, my edits have been kind of not too in depth, if I'm being honest. Like, when I'm writing books, I'm always kind of happy with the shape of the story that I've written. But this book that I was editing, I really saw an opportunity to change the shape of it, and what I mean by that is, like, I was just more aware of the high points and the low points. So I knew that some of my scenes were in the wrong places, and I've never really been that detail oriented with my editing before, and that's probably because, like, I was a bit more amateur before, and now the books that I'm creating are a bit more professional, is what I like to think, and I've got just more of a business mindset towards it. But yeah, like, just like the actual process of moving chapters around and looking at it like much bigger picture. I can see why it took me so long, because I'd never done that before, but I know that the next time I come to do that, it will just come a bit easier. So that makes any sense. I just feel like I looked at it with a lot more, like, a lot more author eyes than I have in the past.
I think part of that as well was because it had a long time to rest.
It had rested for a long time. I'm talking years. So yeah, I think maybe I don't want to ever leave a book that long again. I was like, didn't intend to. And that may be why so much of it changed, is because I'm such a different writer. I'm such a different person to when I first wrote that book. Like, insanely different in every way. It's mind-boggling to think. Like, when I was rereading it, it's like I didn't remember writing any of it. I had no connection to it, which in a way was really nice, because it meant that I could tear it apart and it didn't feel bad. But at the same time, I didn't feel like the connection, which is maybe what took me so long to get into it, is because I didn't feel like I really knew the story as well. So yeah, lessons learned. Big lessons learned.
My big lesson I've learned, like, over the last couple of years from editing is, like, I just no longer write the ending of books, because I'm always going to change it. So it's an absolute waste of time to write it. So I just don't write the last. I always think it's the last one chapter I don't write, and then when I get to, I'm like, oh, I didn't write the last 3 chapters. Great, I didn't really have time for that. But But I do think, yeah, the ending always changes because I change so much going throughout. Like it's never even on the right, like the same emotional landing place or the same pacing. It's
Mhm.
changed too much to have that ending fit. So I just give up writing it and I just write it in my edit. But that's
I
not the topic
love
for
that
today.
idea.
We're sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
a strong recommendation. But yes, the topic of today topic is sort of adjacent though. It's about other professionals that we work with, such as your editor. So people that we work with in our
Mhm.
author business and how to find them. But first of all, let's talk about who do you work with now and in the past, in fact.
Okay, so now and in the past. So I have, I don't know if it's really difficult, really difficult to put into words. I'm very like open to working with people, is what I'm going to say. So this is not how a lot of people would do it, but I really like to work with people that I have relationships with already, in some form or other. So working with strangers to me is like a strange concept. So in the past, like people on my team, I don't want to go into this in too much detail because we are doing another episode on this, but I have a formatter who is somebody that I knew prior to being a writer. We both were blogging at the time, and then I started writing and I convinced her to go into formatting because that's what she'd done previously, and I convinced her to start a business doing that and that she was going to format my books. So that's how I found my formatter. I created like the job by telling her that she should be doing it because she was so good, and I wanted her to follow her dreams. I have got a book cover designer who is a friend of a friend who was suggested to me because I knew that I was told that she wanted to get into designing books, and she was a professional photograph retoucher, but she wanted to get into designing books for people. So I was like, sure, let's work together, and gave her an opportunity to get in the game, and that's how I found my book cover designer. And I also am currently using an editor, and I'm going to be honest that I haven't always used an editor for every book. I like to self-edit. Maybe it's because in the past I've been a bit too soft to take on other people's critiques, but now that I'm older and wiser and I've been critiqued by Matilda Swift, I am no longer so scared of having somebody pass judgment. And so my current book editor is somebody who I just know through socials. And this is her first time doing it as like a professional thing, because I love to give people a chance and like help them build their dream lives. So it's her first time doing it, and we're going to work together and figure it out, the whole process. And that is, I think, basically my current team is just people who I've just kind of gathered and told them that they're like this is the jobs that they should be doing.
This is going to be our most opposite episode. That is,
I know.
I cannot imagine. That to me sounds unhinged. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like the plot to like
I
a
love it.
YA fantasy novel where it's like, oh, we've got to go and storm the
Yeah.
castle. Let me find these friends, like acquaintances from like my network that I'll go and do this with. Like, it's a job.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what it's like. I'm just pulling together the the band of merry
Very like
men,
ragtag band,
and we
yeah.
are we're gonna do a heist.
Okay. What,
Yeah.
before I go into mine, then can I ask you a bit like why do you want the ragtag band rather than thinking these jobs exist already? Why do I need to make somebody become a formatter when they're already formatting the world?
I mean, it was in terms of my formatter friend, she really wanted to. It was something that she'd always wanted to do as her career, and she had already worked in publishing, and she just needed a push to do it full time. And I said, like, if you need like a case study, if you want to work with an author where like the stakes aren't very high, because at that point like my books aren't like being read by thousands of people, so it's like a very low stakes for both of us. I mean, she is fantastic, and she now does it professionally as a living, so I really won on that one. But I don't know. I have this is probably like, I need to do my Clifton Strengths really, but this is a huge part of my personality, is
Mhm.
helping people find their dreams and achieve like their career goals. I love doing that. I'm like, I want to be the HR person of the writing world. I want to help people get into the things that they want to do. And I feel like I have a really good feeling for it. It's very strange.
I feel like we
But
should have a bet
I know it's
before you do
insane.
your strength test, because I think I'm going to guess then a high strength for you is interpersonal. I think it's called interpersonal or interrelational. I think they're blue. The ones that I like are like touchy feely people things. I don't have a single strength in that category until like number 11 or 12.
Yeah, I probably
Because
will,
to
because I
me,
love.
yeah,
Go on.
you know, but yeah, it sounds like um my nightmare. I think even if I and I don't know what it is. I think it's because I mean part of it is like a confidence issue, right? So like I think I quite like saying a professional thing. I think if I had a friend who was like, I want to become a formatter, but I'm a bit too scared to do it, I would say, yeah, it does sound pretty scary. And then I would hire a different formatter because if they did a bad job, I I would struggle to tell them, really. And I would feel the anxiety of having that come up. Um, and I don't use a formatter because I don't, creative mysteries don't particularly, there's no strong push towards having like really interesting formatting. I use draft to digital. So perhaps if I had a friend who was a formatter, I would say, yeah, have a try. And then I might just still use draft to digital behind their back. I don't know. I don't think I want the confrontation of it, of like, what if they're bad? Have you ever had
I
any
mean, yeah,
conflict
it's
around it?
um no, I don't think so. And like one of my other books, in fact, it was it was Curse of the Wild, I think it was. Like I've already like my brain doesn't hold things very well. Um Curse of the Wild was edited by somebody else, like a third party. And that was also an online friend that I had who was getting into editing. And she did a fantastic job. And like I will use her again in the future.
Hmm.
It's just I've just been a bad person and not really got in touch with her in time to get anything booked in. But no, like that's the thing. I have never had a bad experience from it. I don't know. I just think I really do think I have such a good sense of people's strengths
Mm.
that
Mm.
I'm the Pied Piper of publishing jobs. I'm I'm just so good at it. I'm so good at finding the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting because I don't think I know people who want to have those jobs as well. So that's also why I have not
Mm-hmm.
um found that. I don't have any friends that want to be a cover designer or
Mm-hmm.
an editor. I also think perhaps maybe I do, and they wouldn't say anything because I do not necessarily have an approachable personality in that sense. I think if somebody wanted to be a cover designer, they would not mention it to me unless we were really, really close. Because to put it politely, I'm not backwards about coming forwards. And some people don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yes, I think maybe I do know people who want to become cover designers and they have not revealed themselves to me. But I have professional cover designers because I think I want to be able
Mm-hmm.
to say, no, not that. That's rubbish.
Yeah.
Try again. I wouldn't say that, but something like that. So in fact, I'll talk a bit more about my people in a minute. But I have had an editor come back with a really bad edit, and it was incredibly disappointing because I work with an editing like a little agency where someone coordinates I think half a dozen editors, maybe more, but a number of editors. And this woman who runs the agency, she sends the books out kind of on a schedule, and then she doesn't promise you a certain editor. It depends who's free at that time, and she sort of guarantees they're all at the same level, and they have the requirements for different types of edits, so copy edits, proofreads, things like that. And I had for a while consistently got the same person when it came out because I would request her and I would say, oh, can I have this person if possible because she's done the others. It's an ongoing series. It would be easy to have the same person. But I
Yeah.
understand you don't guarantee that. And I have usually got the same person. And then a couple of times I haven't, and that's been fine. And then one time I didn't, and I got the edit back really quickly. And I looked at it and it was not a copy edit. So I paid for a copy edit. It was not a copy edit. It was barely a proofread. And I only pay for a copy edit because I, in my professional life, work as an editor. That's part of my job. So I feel very confident in my editing skills. I like to have a second pair of eyes on it because there's things you don't catch. Like there's things that nobody's going to catch, especially if you wrote it yourself. For example, I have mixed up the two homophones grizzly. So I described like a grizzly scene and I spelled it like the bear, like a grizzly bear. And it's not the same spelling. You just can't catch things like that yourself. And I think because I write very clean, the person that who normally does the copy edits in that agency, she will also put in like little she'll do the proofreading because it's not much in there, and then she'll also put in some like little developmental comments as well. I think because she knows it's not a huge amount of work copy editing wise. So I find working with her really helpful, but because I go through an agency, I can't guarantee her. And I did one time have someone terrible, but I was able to say straight away, this is not what I paid for. This isn't a copy edit. I'm really disappointed by this work. Is there anybody else who can have another look at it? And I had scheduled it with no leeway. I had no extra time because they were always very, it's an agency. They're always very, to time, to task. I didn't schedule for like a replacement, but because the first one had come back very quickly, the agency paid for someone to work through the weekend to add extra time onto their roster. So they got it back to me in time. It was great. And they gave me a discount on what I'd paid for. And I was like, yeah, perfect. I'm very happy. I'll keep using you. So yeah, I think I feel more confident having somebody who I don't have an ongoing relationship with that I can be critical of in a professional way.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would struggle to criticize a friend. And I would, and sometimes things don't go right, even with a friend that you're working with. So I would not enjoy that just because I know that I think my critique style, as you may have experienced, can be somewhat abrasive. And I'm aware of that fact. Yes, I wouldn't want to ruin
I
a friendship.
wouldn't call it abrasive. Yeah.
It's, it's strong. It's a lot.
Yes, it's opinionated. That's fine.
Yeah, opinionated. And I will also talk about I have had another bad experience. And this, I think, I'm going to caveat by saying I don't think it's anyone's fault. But it is a good example of how working with someone who you don't know, you don't have any connection with, can be really difficult. So it's my very, very, very first covers. And I had managed to get a slot with someone who is incredibly popular as a cozy designer, and like anyone who writes cozies will instantly think of a designer for this. So if you have thought of this person, you probably have. I'm going to say it was neither of our faults, and I wouldn't say anything negative about her. We just absolutely were on different pages in a way that I found really difficult to deal with at the time, because this person is well renowned as being like the cozy cover designer, and I felt really excited to have got this slot booked, and I booked it in age in advance. I felt really lucky. She consistently makes beautiful covers, and I sent in my brief, and what I got back looked like nothing she'd ever made before and nothing that fit in the genre. And I felt really like, oh, did I give the wrong brief? I don't know. It's my first time giving a brief in this way, but like in my day job, I give briefs for designers, so I felt like I was like, I wasn't miles off. I don't know what else she would have wanted. And I think it was just a mismatch. Like, absolutely, it was just like who knows what it was. But she was very, very accommodating. She's like, I'll try something different. I'm aware this isn't working. And then she was like, actually, I think I'm just not the designer for this. Can I give the money back and you can find somebody else? So like, couldn't have been better from that point. I'm sure it happens to everybody, but it felt very, like, my first experience felt very difficult to like know how I could have done it better. But it also gave me an experience with having to like recover from a disaster, because it was my release date coming up really, really, really soon. Again, you book these things in with, you're not planning to sit around on covers for years or sit around and edited books for years. You're planning things backwards from a release date. So I did not have spare time. And I did find another cover designer who worked unbelievably quickly. who I absolutely recommend wholeheartedly to anybody wanting a quick cover. And I've mentioned him before. It's the website Go On Writes, or Go On Write, and he does a lot of pre-mades. He's also a self-published writer, so he's definitely very aware of the, the things that we go through. So he's really accommodating as a designer, but he does great pre-mades and can adapt his pre-mades really quickly, very reasonable prices. So very fortunately, when I was complaining to a friend of mine saying like, oh my gosh, I've had this cover designer booked in for ages. I thought I did everything right and it's just going wrong. It's all falling apart. I don't know how I'm going to get this book published on time. And a friend of mine who is a self-published author who I know in real life, when I sat there in a cafe being like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, just said, go on right and find another cover and he will fit you in. And he did. And I really like the covers and I think they did a fantastic job. And I got them knowing that I wanted to have them remade at some point. They were like a great, place, not even a placeholder. They were a great first set of covers, but I knew that if I wanted the series to kind of have legs long term, I wanted to get my own custom covers made. And I did. And he made them all last year before, recently. And they look fantastic. So yeah, that is kind of my disaster side of things. But I have got other people that I work with. So as I said, I do have a cover designer. And in fact, I have two cover designers. And this came from a friend of mine who's a cozy author who she had beautiful covers. And I saw that she was going with another designer for a second series. And I asked her, like, oh, did you not have a great experience with the first designer? And she said, no, a friend of mine had an experience where her cover designer just dropped off the map and something happened to them. And all of her series, basically, she had to start again with fresh covers because she couldn't get the cover designer to do anything else. And so the friend of mine said, I've decided I'm always going to have a different cover designer for each series. It also gives you a chance to kind of try slightly different styles, keep moving with the times, and kind of diversify. So I have two cover designers because I have two series. I do feel like I've got a new series coming, and I think I will use one of the cover designers that I have because she just made the most beautiful covers that are so to market and so beautiful, and she's very affordable. And that again was in fact a recommendation from my in real life self-publishing friend, as was my editing service. So when I was thinking about this earlier, all three of my people that I currently work with consistently came from the same person to recommend them, and she, I think, currently works with at least one of them. I think she still works with the editing agency, but she has tried different people throughout her career, and they came from recommendations. So I would say, I think we mentioned this at the end of the previous episode, saying that actually a lot of the advice you get is go from recommendations, and what do you do if you don't have recommendations? That I think that is really tricky for me, but it's interesting to hear that you go for a different approach of you just force people that you know to do it.
Yeah, I create the jobs. I'm the boss. No, it's funny because I do believe that recommendations are so important. But I also know that when you're starting out, it's difficult to get those recommendations. And for some reason, I've slotted myself into the role of being the person who is going to do the recommending. I also, I'm not adverse to giving critical feedback, even though, I do have not crazy close relationships with these people. My formatter, we were online friends before we started working together, but not super close. We have gotten closer since we've been working together, but we still maintain quite a good professional relationship, and I know that we're very good at communicating, and I do give feedback if I don't like things, but she's her eye for detail is so good that I just trust her completely, and she's just so good. But because of my last job, so in my last job when I was working in a big office, a huge corporate job that I had, I was a figure of authority within the department that I worked in. Somehow, I don't know how that happened, but I was the go-to person for a lot of stuff, and I had to give a lot of feedback to, and I would say, because I'm a very friendly person, I was very close friends with pretty much everybody in the department. There was probably 40 of us, and I would say I had a very good relationship with a hell of a lot of those people. And I could be so silly with them, and I loved winding people up, and I could be the most annoying colleague known to man. But I also had a position of authority in which I had to kind of lay the law for a lot of things, a lot of policies and a lot of technical stuff. So I think I've just kind of developed a very good communication style with being able to have a really good, familiar, friendly relationship, and also being able to weave in a not even critical, just a good back and forth about work that doesn't have to be anything awkward. I feel like I'm just really good at that. But that came from years of working in a corporate office where you had to be good at that, or you had a lot of enemies. So I feel like that is one of my big strengths, is being able to go back to somebody and say, say with my cover design, she's recently designed. Well, the first cover that she did was completely off the mark, and we didn't really know each other that well then. But I still like to keep a friendly relationship, and I did go back to her and say it's not quite hitting the mark, and I gave her I kind of drafted up an idea that I'd had, and then she took it from there. And I feel like maybe my work style is a lot more collaborative, which is why I'm kind of easygoing with who I'm giving jobs to, because I know I feel like it's a very much I'm working with them. They're not doing a job for me, but that's just my working style. Whereas you like to
it's really
give
interesting, and
somebody a job.
maybe it is about I think it's about making sure that you're finding people that align with your working style, because I think we've talked about that job before that you had. I'm currently in a very similar job where I've been in the job for a long time. I am in that position of authority, but I work in my company culture. It's very much that you're not friends with people at different levels to you, because there's quite a spread of ages, I would say, partly as well. There's quite a lot of young new starters, and they all form a cohort, and they're friends with each other. And people above them, you can be friendly, but I'm definitely not I'm not friends with people below me, who I haven't known for a long time. And that isn't encouraged at my work, because the way that you give feedback is relatively strict. And part of that is it's just the culture in the company, and partly also so the company generally in Hong Kong, that feedback is stricter than you may be used to in the UK. So I think that has guided my professional relationships. I have people at work that I would hang out with, willingly and have a great time with, but I would say most of my people that I give feedback to, not all but most, it is very much a tell you how to do it differently and expect you to come back with it better, and that's kind of it. It's not a collaboration, because often they are miles off the mark, and you're not doing it together. You are saying here's what I need to do. And I think in that job though, I am in a position of authority, and when I'm working with a cover designer or an editor, I want them to be in a position of authority. I want to give them the money and buy their expertise, especially with covers, because I think I really like visual things, and I can trick myself into believing that means that I have got a good sense of what cover should look like. And actually, I think for the most part, not everybody, but a lot of people who are writers think they know covers and they don't know covers. And I think I'm the same. I think I'm very easily swayed by the cover that I like rather than the cover that is right for the market. So I want to kind of buy somebody's expertise. And the cover designs that I work with, there's very much a back and forth on, I will say, oh, could you do this? Could you incorporate this element that I really want to have across the series? But I would always try and say, but do tell me if that's going to look really busy and stupid, because I'm trying to buy their expertise. I could learn how to make covers myself. I would actually really like to, but I don't. It's not a use of my time, A, and B, it wouldn't be as good as their work. 'Cause I'm not a full-time cover designer. So I try to, as much as possible, kind of keep that relationship professional and distant. But yeah, I'm trying to think what I would do if I really didn't know a cover designer, because it's like we've talked about for this series in general, it is more than just, can this person do this job? It is about, like, can we get on and get the job done?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, I think I would find it hard to, I would feel kind of maybe a little bit bristly if someone came with a recommendation. I'm very much like a walls
Mm-hmm.
up person straight away, which, I'm not saying that's a good way to be. I'm just saying I'm aware of that. That if
No,
someone
I'm
didn't come with
very
a
much the
recommendation,
opposite, which I'm just like,
yeah,
I'll
stick it.
hire you. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, it's very trusting, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think, but I think someone coming with a recommendation really helps me with that. It makes me feel like, yeah, they're going to be a good person if it's a trusted recommendation.
Yes. Yeah, I do think recommendations. I think maybe like the recommendations that I have of the people that I work with are very personality based, because to me, like you say, the working relationship to me is like the majority of that. That's like the most important part of the relationship is like, are we on the same wavelength? Do we get on? Do we like the same things? Like, it's very much a, like, I really feel like I should want to be friends with these people. This might be a me problem. Maybe I just need to be liked. But I kind of feel like I want to work with my friends more than anything. Like, I want to have that ragtag crew where I'm going on a crazy mission with people that I like, that I want to be around, and I want to like set up camp next to a river whilst we wait for all the lights in the castle to go out. Like, just I just have that desire in my life. Maybe it's because I come from a very close knit family and I've got very close siblings. I'm just trying to recreate that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. Not bothered.
Whereas,
I
as I
don't care what
mentioned,
it means.
I'm an older sister. I think I'm bringing older sister energy to all my
Yeah.
relationships. Yeah.
Yes, I'm bringing middle sister. I'm bringing middle child to everything that I do.
Gosh,
Just
yes. So I think
psychoanalyze myself.
first step is know your position in the family and then hire somebody
Yeah.
accordingly. But
Hire
no, other ways to
accordingly.
find
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are groups. So if I were looking for another designer right now, for example, I actually think people should do more asking around, because, and I try and make an effort to do it now. I think people are a little bit too secretive about their editors and their designers, and sort of with
Yeah.
like understandable reason, not necessarily good reason, but understandable reason. In that, if you tell everyone about your great cover designer, they'll be booked out, and you'll be really annoyed when you come and try and book them,
Yes.
or they'll get really expensive. But
Yes.
good designers deserve good money. And so I really make an effort
Yeah.
when people say, I love your cover, another editor, another writer. If someone says, oh, I love your cover, I'll say, oh, it's by this person, whichever one it is. And I think if people came and asked me, if they, message me on Instagram and said, oh, I love that cover, who's it by? I would tell them. I wouldn't feel a need to gatekeep that. And I would hope that other authors would feel the same
No.
way. I'm sure they would. Some authors put it
Yes.
in their copyright page, who their cover designer is. I think one tricky thing with that can be that some cover designers in particular don't have their price on their website. So you might find someone from an inside front cover and think, oh my gosh, that's fantastic, I would love that. And then you message them and they're like, it's $1,000. Oh, not for me right now. And that can feel awkward. That puts me off.
Yes, I will say that did happen to me. There was a cover designer who I love, and I still love her work. I follow her on Instagram, and it's in my like bucket list to work with her. But she sent me a quote for a cover that was she's so good, but it's I don't want to say extortionate, but for the time, well, even now, even at the level of author I am now, I couldn't pay that money up front. It would just be way too much of a gamble, but that I know that I'm not currently at that level. I am going to be at that level, which is why she's on my bucket list to use her. And I would, if people ask me like who my favorite cover designer is, I would always recommend her if people had the budget for it. But yeah, like sometimes you just need to ask. You just need to ask other people, and you just need to decide what your budget is and act accordingly for everything. For everything.
I think as well as like asking people, there are Facebook groups for covers. There's quite a good Facebook group for covers
Yes.
for cozies. I can't for the life of me what it's called. I think there might even be more than one that I'm a member of, and I see them pop up every so often, like really nice cozy covers. Yeah, whatever your genre is, just like find on Facebook some groups, even just to get ideas of what the new covers look like, who's out there doing them, how often they're releasing pre-made groups. Yeah, I think just getting a bit more aware of the market. And then maybe if you ask for a recommendation, if someone mentions someone that you've seen before, you're like, oh, I know they are really communicative. They are very friendly. They give webinars on current cover design trends and things like that. So I think being aware that it's more than just like what the pretty picture looks like. It's a relationship. You want to have enough awareness of that person's interactions in the industry to get a sense of if you're going to work together well. So, for example, the Go and Write designer that I've mentioned, he has a newsletter that comes out, I want to say monthly, and is funny and nice. And if you reply to him, he'll chat back. He does a lot of service for authors, so he writes a lot about the changes in AI and what that means for authors, and in an open way that isn't saying you must use AI, but is in a way saying, here's what I've learned about a thing that I'm really interested in. You don't want to do all the research on this. Obviously, you're an author, not a designer. So here's sort of a brief crib sheet on it, which I love. So yeah, I think just get to know people in a real way. And you could be in his newsletter and never get a cover from him. So you want people like that in your network.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, when they're new, they think they have to go to like a cheap site like Fiverr. But actual like custom made covers, beautiful custom made covers, can be not that expensive. I think if you're looking at a budget of $150 for a cover, for a custom made cover, that's on the low end, but it is very achievable. You can find plenty of designers making covers like that are stunning.
Yes.
You know, if you can't budget that, I think have a look at your business plan, because I think that is one of the few expenses there are for covers, for publishing anything, and the other is editing. And again, I would say affordable. It's affordable, and it's a business expense. If you were setting up any other business, you would have expenses. And I think if you can't justify the cost, just have a think like, could I wait 3 months or could I wait 6 months? Or like worst case scenario,
Exactly.
could I like really, really spend some time getting to know editing rules, and could I swap skills with someone? People say this a lot. I would struggle to make that relationship, a skill swap one, but I think you wouldn't, Sam, for example. I think it's different strokes for different folks. But make sure that you're doing something that you're at least thinking about the budget. And I see the number $2,000 bandied around a lot. Like, this is the cost of a first book. Absolutely not. No, I would budget. I put together a budget recently. I was trying to think about how much money I actually need. I would say my budget for a book, maximum $500. Like, really. I mean, cozy books are short, so the actual editing cost is not that expensive. But yeah, if I was spending far upwards of $500, I would be thinking I've done something wrong. And that's not for pre-mades, that's for custom covers. So you could be, you know, a small chunk of that if you really, really worked at it.
Yeah, definitely. I think ask people that you trust for people that they trust, and be really realistic with what you could afford, and let that really dictate the rest of it. I think it always comes down to what you can afford, and like how much you're willing to invest in yourself. Sometimes that's the most difficult thing, is to get over this idea that you have to invest in yourself. Always comes down to mindset, guys.
Yeah, because I think if you had a crisis, like, you know, your car broke down, you would find the money for it. And I think of this like, it's an extra bill that you have to find the money for, and you would maybe take some extra hours at work, or you would do some freelancing gigs, or you would just really scrimp and save, but you would find the money for it because you wouldn't have no car. I experience this all the time. Like, I often have unexpected expenses, and then it gets to the end of the month, I'm like, oh, you know what, I just figured it out. Like, I had a lean month. And I'm speaking from definitely a position of privilege, right? Like, I am someone who is approaching middle age, so relatively well paid. I don't have kids. Like, I'm definitely aware of the privilege, but I think you can scale it down and think, it's not that much money for a book. And then you would hope that maybe within a few books, you're making that money back. So it's not like you're having to find the money for like
Yes.
10 books, find the money for 2 to 3 books. And a lot of other things you can do really on a shoestring. If you can't afford a website, just don't have a website for a while. Like, fine, not the end of the
Yeah.
world. But if you can't afford a cover designer, really think about, how can I replace this with something of really equal value, like really equal quality? Because bad covers don't sell. They're very, very conspicuous. People don't buy them
No.
anymore. It has to be not just a good cover, a good to market cover. And that is tough to make, and it is a really good job to make that. And those people deserve to be paid.
Agreed. With that in mind, I think we should wrap it up. We've done a good 45-minute talk on this, and we thought it was going to be a lot less.
That's brief. That was brief for us.
It was, to be fair, it was brief. For next week's topic, we are continuing our series with other people in your business, and the episode is on co-writing. So do you have any initial thoughts on this now?
I mean, only that the idea of it is petrifying. But I know people that do it. So, and I think generally people who do it tend to be far into their careers. So they are maybe a few books in, they've got a good process going, but they want to get faster, and co-writing is a way to do that. And the person we have on as a guest, very exciting, next week did it from the beginning of her career. And so I am fascinated to know how that works, how she's handled that, what she's learned from it, and just everything about it. It seems really exciting and not something I would ever have been brave enough to do when I first started. How about you?
Yeah, agreed. It's not something I've ever thought about. It's funny because I do have, there's a couple of series that I have that are written by co-writers, and I've just never really thought about how that works before. So I'm really interested to find out the actual ins and outs of the process, and yeah, just like how. I'm very excited. So until then, you can subscribe, catch us on Instagram. You can leave us a review if you like, and tell your friends and family. But for now, we will talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.